My aunt occupied my school district house and didn't return it. My father came to beg for it, but he was pushed down by them and hurt his waist. My mother was also so angry that she couldn't stand it. I happened to be out of the mental hospital and sent a message to my aunt at the moment. Since you like to live in my house so much, let's live enough. 1. Lee Man, what are you going to do? I warn you not to mess around, or don't blame me for being rude. As soon as the WeChat message was sent out, my aunt sent me a voice call in a hurry. Listening to her threat, I didn't hesitate to let the locksmith do it. My parents were worried when they saw my battle. How about it, let's talk about it. After all, we are all relatives. I shook my head and said to my mother, Mom, you treat them as relatives, but they don't care about you. In fact, my aunt's family is very poor. Ding ding, 3 years ago, in order to marry my cousin Gao Chong, he forced to borrow my school district house as a wedding room. With the school district house as the wedding room, the cousin's wedding was done in such a beautiful way. Who knew that after marriage, they asked us to get a grace period of time on the grounds that they were not suitable for moving. Later, they even said directly that I was not married anyway, and it was useless to ask for a school district house. It was better to let them live in it to add popularity to the house. When I heard these words, I didn't pay much attention to it. Turnover, my parents have always liked to live in my hometown. I usually work abroad all year round, so I want them to live in first, and then let them move out when I come back. This stay is 3 years, and now they directly regard my school district house as their own. A while ago, my father came to beg for it, but he was forced to come out like a beggar. My mother blamed herself for this and cried every day. I didn't know about it before. After all, I was abroad. I returned to China 3 months ago. Because of the pressure of work, I have been recuperating in a mental hospital until now. I really have no time to manage it. At present, when I went home, I saw that they occupied my house and looked arrogant to my parents. I was not used to them. After all the workers arrived, I immediately ordered, seal all the doors and windows for me. It just so happens that they like to live, so let them live enough. 2. The unlocking master hesitated at the beginning, for fear that I was seeking revenge. But when I showed the house capital, they immediately started the work and didn't say anything. They take money to do things. As long as the landlord is me, I can ask them to smash the door. What are you doing? Why do you touch the door of my house? The huge movement shocked my cousin Baiyu. She was so angry that she counted the masters. You're home? You're right, are you? Hearing my voice, Baiyu glanced at me, and then suddenly realized and said disdainfully. I said, it turned out to be Gao Chong's shameless cousin Li Man. That's right. It's okay for your parents to make trouble a while ago. I didn't expect that you dared to take someone to demolish my door. Do you really think you can do whatever you want with our relatives? Can you show your face? I don't have the ability to make money to buy a house. It's really bad luck to always think about other people's houses. I was confused when I heard this. I just want to go back to my own house. How can I afford to buy it and rob other people's houses? But when I think about it, I understand. Baiyu has been cheated by her aunt's family. She didn't know that the owner of the house was actually me. No wonder she said such a thing. When the workers heard this, their work also stopped. They were confused and obviously didn't figure out what was going on. Just as I was about to let them continue to work, my cousin Gao Chong also came out. His face was cold, and his eyes were full of impatience. Li Man, have you made enough trouble? 2. I was even more surprised to see his expression. Baiyu didn't know that the house was mine. It was forgeable, but Gao Chong knew it. When my aunt's family came to borrow a house, she cried so pitifully. It is said that if you don't have a strong house, you can't marry a daughter-in-law. If it goes on like this, their family will have no children and grandchildren. They need my help. I also vowed that I would always remember my great favor. When my cousin got married, I would definitely return the house immediately. This house is the first property in my life. I own the inside and outside, which is of special significance to me. Moreover, it has also become a school district house because of the urban planning. Originally, I didn't want to lend it out. But after all, they are relatives and my mother is also helping to speak well. Seeing that their family was pitiful, I reluctantly agreed. I didn't expect that Gao Chong was fighting back now, but he thought that I shouldn't come to ask for a house. Is this what they said will not forget my kindness? We are married and have children. How long will your family stay with my house? I asked Gao Chong mercilessly. Look, what kind of relatives are your family? You are so righteous to rob other people's houses. Baiyu fell to Gao Chong endlessly. Gao Chong himself was also very dissatisfied, but before he could say anything, his aunt and uncle rushed back from outside in a panic. Li Man, are you crazy? Did you really call the unlocker? They cursed loudly. They didn't expect me, a little girl, to do things so fiercely. I probably think that with my parents' soft temper, the daughter born will not be very tough. I looked at my aunt coldly. Do you think I'm just talking? My aunt didn't dare to look at me. She hurriedly called Gao Chong and the others into the room, saying that she would deal with it herself. When Baiyu entered the door, he didn't forget to say strangely, "What kind of relatives are these? It's really bad." I almost laughed when I heard it. Who on earth is evil? I kindly lent them the house, but in the end I became a villain who robbed the house? If I had known it would be like this, I would have emptied the house for mice and cockroaches to nest, and I would not have lent them such a white-eyed wolf. Small auntie, move away from me quickly, or I will take the house capital to the police station to sue you, and then I will be kicked out by the police. Don't blame me for not giving you face. I shook the book in my hand. My little aunt, who was going to scold me, suddenly changed her face and she hurriedly smiled. Man, we are all a family. Why is it so unpleasant? A family? Oh, now you know it's a family? When my father came to ask for a house a while ago, you closed the door and shouted at the property security guard to turn people out. He said that my father wanted to eat. Don't let him in the community in the future. My father was pushed and sprained his waist by the security guard at that time, and he is still crying out in pain. Auntie, when my father came to ask you for a house, you didn't treat him as a relative. I looked at him with a sneer. How about I call the security guard and ask them to throw out all your family? As soon as he heard this, the little uncle hurriedly said that it was a misunderstanding. At that time he didn't see the person clearly. The two of them seemed to know the loss and they smiled all the time. Man, don't stand here. Let's sit down and talk slowly. Just as I was about to enter the door, Bayou's contemptuous voice came again. Mom, what's wrong with you? Everyone brings it home. What if it steals our things? 3. Bayou rolled her eyes when I was and directly at me. It is said that my hands and feet are not clean. I have to get her consent to go back to my home. How can there be such a funny thing? I don't think we need to discuss it today. I'll just call the property manager. I know enough about my aunt's family. It's useless to talk to them more. What else did Bayou want to say? But the little aunt was anxious and scolded her. Are you talking to your cousin? Apologize to Man quickly. Bayou snorted coldly and turned her head aside directly. Man, come in and sit down. How can a family talk like this? I'm too lazy to pay attention to her. If they really treat us as a family, they won't toss my parents like this. They only think that we are a family when I am useful. Looking at the house, I gradually got angry. The originally clean wall is now painted in a mess, which is completely wrong. That I designed and decorated this house myself, and every detail condensed my heart's efforts. Now it has been ruined like this and I'm so angry that I want to beat people up. What's the matter with this wall? Isn't it my daughter's casual drawing? Why did you, an outsider, come to my house and tell me to draw? Bayou rolled her eyes at me impatiently. What a bitch. Are you a relative of our family? I have to send you the school district house. I almost laughed out loud when I heard it. Just because you are a relative, you have lived in this house for 3 years, and my parents are humiliated by you. My aunt saw that I looked ugly and quickly pushed Bayou into the room. Don't make trouble here. Get out of the room. It was not until Bayou reluctantly returned to the room that my aunt and uncle looked at me pleadingly. Man, we are also wrong with this matter. But if you do well, let us live for a while. At this time, the little aunt still looked arrogant on the phone before. When I let you live in, I repeatedly said not to move the things in this room. I questioned them with a cold face. Although I have been mentally prepared for a long time, I am still heartbroken to see the carefully decorated house being ruined like this. Seeing my indifferent face, my aunt began to shed tears. Isn't this all caused by children's naughtiness? You also know that children are ignorant. Man, my baby is used to living here. You can relax for a while. This suddenly makes us move. Not to mention that the child still has to go to school. My daughter-in-law is definitely going to divorce. Although I haven't had much contact with Bayou, I also know about her. It is said that she didn't like Gao Chong and kept dragging him. Later, when he heard that Gao Chong's family had a school district house, he changed his mind and got married. After marriage, she didn't work and worked as a full-time wife at home all day long. She is said to be a full-time wife, but in fact, she doesn't do anything, and all the housework is done by her aunt. I usually spend a lot of money, which makes my aunt's family borrow money like relatives. If she is kicked out, she will have a divorce with her temper. At that time, my aunt's family will definitely be a chicken flying and a dog jumping. I know very well the consequences of kicking them out, but what does it have to do with me? As a relative, our family has done their best. Just as I was about to have an attack, my mother called again. She doesn't want me to make a big deal out of it. In the end, she still has to take care of her relatives. I had no choice but to agree. I'll give you another week. I won't be polite if I don't leave then. The aunt and uncle were so happy that they smiled and thanked them repeatedly. What they said at the critical moment depends on their loved ones. I thought my concession would at least give them some affection. Who would have thought that they would not be grateful but worse? 4. On the 6th day, in a blink of an eye, I saw that they still had no intention of moving, so I came to the door again. As a result, I heard a complaint from my aunt and my uncle. What kind of hard days, what kind of people are relatives, don't force them to death and so on. This time I didn't give them any more face, and directly asked them to move out within the specified time. My uncle's face was very ugly. Obviously, I didn't expect that I would be so unkind. My aunt quickly pulled me into the room and said that since I'm here, it's better to have a meal first. When Bai Yu saw me sitting at the table, she immediately dropped her chopsticks and stared at me. Be careful, this cup is expensive. If you break it, you can't afford it. When I heard her words, I didn't say anything in my heart. At the beginning, I loved these exquisite crystal tableware, and I specially brought back a set from abroad and put it at home. A cup inside cost thousands of yuan smaller. I didn't think that I hadn't used it yet, but let them spoil it first. My heart is blocked. The room was in a mess, and Gao Chong's daughter was still running around with things. I frowned and found that the Barbie doll in her hand was my childhood birthday present. I cherished these things very much, and I specially reserved a room in the house to store them. When my aunt's family moved in, I told them not to touch the things in the room. Now it seems that they are not serious at all. Who asked you to touch my things? I grabbed the tattered Barbie doll and only felt angry. The naughty child was suddenly scared to tears by me, kicking and hitting me. Bai Yu also cursed aggressively. Mom, look at what kind of people you bring to home all day long. You don't have any quality at all. Quality? I almost burst out laughing when I heard the words. You occupy the school district house I bought, bully my parents and damage my belongings at will. Is this called quality? Do you talk to me about quality? Okay. I'm coming to teach you what quality is. Before the words were stone, I slapped Bai Yu's face. Ah! A sad scream resounded through the room. You bitch, how dare you hit me? I'm not done with you. Bai Yu pounced on me, and I grabbed her hair and knocked her to the ground. The aunt and uncle reacted and began to curse. Li Man, are you crazy? They probably didn't expect that I, a weak woman, would suddenly attack them. Am I crazy? I sneered and shook my head. This is the truth, I'm teaching you how to be a human. Crazy woman, Mom. Call the property security guard to clean her up. Bai Yu cried on the ground, and I agree with her proposal very much. Yes, just let the property security guard blow you out together. It's really bad luck that you live in such a good house. My aunt was going to call the security guard, but when she heard me say this, she was stunned. They also dared to be so arrogant because they were relatives. If they really let the security guard come, it was in vain. Mom and Dad, I've been beaten. Are you still at her? Bai Yu is unforgiving. There is no overnight feud in a family. It's enough to make trouble, and the family's ugliness can't be publicized. The little uncle's face turned pale and he gave his daughter-in-law a fierce look. Why don't you get back to your room? You don't go to work every day. You're all looking for trouble for me. Bai Yu looked incredible. I'm afraid she didn't dream that the public would speak for outsiders. When the aunt coaxed her away, the aunt said with a smile, Man, your mother and I are sisters. Why do we have to make things so rigid? I only felt disgusted when I looked at her flattering face. Why didn't she think about this relationship when she occupied my house? 5. You see, you also hit Xiao Yu just now and you were angry. Why don't we forget about it? Why don't we live in the house first? Otherwise, you really have to fight. If you hit someone, you have to get into the game. Oh, it turns out that she played this calculation. I also wondered why she suddenly became soft. But since I dare to do it, I am naturally full of certainty. I smiled at him and took out my mobile phone. Then let's ask the police to make an evaluation. At that time, the move should be moved, and the move should enter the situation. My aunt panicked when she heard it. Man, you don't talk about family affection at all? You are going to push us to death. Are you willing to see our family die? My little uncle also knelt down for me while howling. Fortunately, I didn't ask my mother to come. Otherwise, Jun Bao will be soft-hearted when he sees this scene. What makes me want your family to die? If I didn't lend you a house at the beginning, your son couldn't even marry a daughter-in-law, right? That if you don't know how to be grateful, you will repay the favor. Just as I was about to open my mouth, Gao Chong rushed in from the outside and waved his fist at me. He was at work and rushed back in a hurry after receiving a call from his wife. As soon as I entered the door, I saw my father kneeling in front of me and begging for mercy. He couldn't stand it and attacked me without saying a word. In the 2 years when I worked abroad, I also learned some self-defense because the public security environment was not very good. But no matter what, I was one head shorter than Gao Chong. Although I dodged, I was still pushed to the ground by him. Bai Yu also emerged and stared at me gloomily, looking eager to eat my expression. Li Man, I really didn't dare to deal with you because I thought you were my cousin? Who do you think you are when you run to our house? As he said, Gao Chong grabbed my collar again and picked me up. I took advantage of his distraction and kicked his life, which made him scream and kneel on the ground. Looking at him like this, my heart is mixed. In fact, although we are cousins, we haven't known each other since we were young. But when he was in trouble, I still lent him the school district house. Later, he got married and his wife spent too much, and she couldn't live any longer and came to beg me. For the sake of my relatives, I also asked someone to find him an easy and profitable errand. In theory, he is the one who should thank me the most. Unexpectedly, he didn't return the house, but also attacked me as soon as he entered the door. Gao Chong was kicked to the ground by me, and my little uncle couldn't hold back and was ready to get up and attack me. At this moment, several policemen from outside rushed in under the leadership of the property manager. In fact, I have secretly called the police just now. My aunt forcibly occupied the school district house, and I came out of the mental hospital to create them 39,103. As soon as Bai Yu saw the police, she immediately shouted, "Comrade police, you are here at the right time. Arrest this madman." In her eyes, I kicked the iron plate today. Because he is our relative, this person comes to harass us endlessly, shamelessly robbed our house, and even attacked us. The policeman looked at me suspiciously. Maybe I didn't expect a quiet stammering girl like me to do such things. What's going on? Policeman looked at me. I answered unhurriedly. They occupied my house and didn't return it. I came to let them move out today, but they didn't want to, so they started a fight. Fart. What kind of spring and autumn dreams are you doing? You are so poor that you still want to buy a house in this lot. You are going to rob our house. Bai Yu cursed loudly, and her hysterical appearance looked like a shrew. I looked at her shouting coldly, and then took out a property certificate from her bag and handed it to the police. This is my property certificate, and the owner of the property registration is also me. The Property Rights Center only found my name. Bai Yu became more energetic when he heard it. We also have the property certificate, Mom. Take it out quickly. Point 6. She urged her aunt, but she froze in place and her face turned pale. Obviously it can't be taken out. She had a real estate certificate, but it was deliberately forged to deceive Bai Yu. That thing is okay to deceive Bai Yu, but now she dares not take it out in the face of the police. She can't take it out. I looked at Bai Yu lightly. I bought this house and I also paid for the decoration. I introduced your husband's work. To put it bluntly, I also raised you. It's not to see my parents' good intentions after living here for so long. Bai Yu exploded as soon as she heard it, shaking Gao Chong desperately and asking endlessly. The police saw that the matter was complicated and simply brought us back to the bureau. The house is easy to handle, and you can be sure by checking the information. Now the main problem of fighting has not been solved. My aunt's family finally grabbed my handle and bit me to death and didn't let go. Whatever I said, I moved my hand first. Their son couldn't get off the ground, so he had to ask for an examination. Yes, you have to stay for a few days without losing money. Save her from making trouble everywhere. My aunt couldn't wait to swallow me alive. I sneered and took out a medical record from my bag in front of them and handed it to the police. My aunt's family was stunned when they saw my medical record, and even the police looked at me indisbelievably. You mean you have a mental illness? The policeman looked at me suspiciously, probably not believing that a seemingly normal girl would have this problem. My aunt's family also firmly doesn't believe it. Don't listen to her nonsense. She is very normal. However, these things are not what they say. The police directly took the medical records to investigate. This check is so good that they really let them find out the name Hall. I do have a mental illness, and I just got out of the hospital. The aunt's family was completely dumbfounded, and their eyes were about to come out. Even the police are helpless. Why do you have to provoke her? This matter can only be negotiated and mediated privately to compensate according to the injury. But according to your situation, you have to compensate others. My aunt's family was completely stunned. In fact, I know in my heart that I just learned a little bit. No matter how heavy the hand is, I can't hurt a tall and powerful man. Are you mistaken? Obviously, she came to make trouble. Why do you want us to compensate? If you don't want to lose money and can't reach a private settlement, you may have to stay in the bureau for a few days. The policeman explained, and I didn't hesitate to say that I didn't want to be private. I'm not short of money. I have to let them remember for a long time. When my aunt's family saw this, they began to sell badly with a handful of snot and tears. I didn't agree, and they went to beg my parents who came in a hurry. My parents have always been soft-hearted, and now they are moved by their bitter drama and hesitate to look at me. I can't help it. Who made me their daughter? No matter how reluctant I am, I can only agree. Under the mediation of the police, I finally didn't let my aunt's family lose money, but I warned them again that they must move out of my house within a week, or the police will deal with it in person. This is good news for us, and so is my aunt's family. After all, they can stay for another week. After leaving the police station, my aunt and uncle pulled my parents to thank me with a grateful face. Say it's thanks to you, sisters are different and so on. I watched coldly and felt that things were not simple. From what I know about them these days, they are obviously up to something bad. When I got home, I called my old friend Lu Wei as soon as possible. At the beginning, Gao Chong's work was arranged by Lu Wei. Since Gao Chong is so ungrateful that he even attacked me, he doesn't want to continue this job. Over the years, I have also had little connections, and it is not easy to deal with him. Unexpectedly, Lu Wei listened to my request and not only did not agree, but also laughed. 7. Man, I'm afraid you can't fire him now. What, is this making you embarrassed? No, in fact, this kid usually likes to take advantage of his position to fill his pockets. If it hadn't been for your face, I would have found a way to deal with him. Since he is so ignorant, I will help you send him into the bureau and squat. Hearing this, I hesitated for a moment and refused. After all, I had to take into account my parents' feelings. Give me account how greedy he is. In the future, if there is a suitable project, I will be the first to recommend you. Deal. I thought that if I took a step back, even if my aunts were not grateful, they would at least not provoke our family again. But I still underestimated their shamelessness. On the third day, I just came home after shopping when I heard the noise in the living room. Girl, you have to plan for the future. Man is a girl, not to mention a mental illness. How can such a person take care of you? Why don't you transfer the house to us and let my son take care of you in the future? I was so angry when I heard it outside the door. I knew that their family was not a good person, but I didn't expect to be so shameless. Do you still want to be shameless? If you dare to say bad things about my daughter, believe it or not, I will break off relations with you. My parents were quite stubborn this time and directly fight back. But the aunt didn't care. Oh, brother-in-law, why are you angry? I'm not all for your good. Man's problem will only get worse and worse. It's better to send him to a mental hospital as soon as possible. There are professionals to take care of it, which is good for everyone. Oh my god, it turned out to be this idea. If you tiss me up, they can do whatever they want, right? They also know that I'm not easy to mess with. They are trying to get rid of me. You should also think about it for Man. If you really can't bear it, I'll personally find the best mental hospital for Man. I couldn't help the anger in my heart anymore, so I opened the door and rushed in. Man is back. Sit down. When my aunt saw me suddenly appear, she looked embarrassed, afraid that I would hear what she had just said. Don't worry, I'll get something. I faked a smile at her, then rushed into the kitchen, picked up a kitchen knife and came back. Man, what are you doing? My aunt was so scared that her soul was scattered. What to do? I sneered and approached her. Isn't it said that I'm sick? It's normal to play with a knife. But you'd better be careful. If I accidentally cut you with this knife, you will be miserable. The aunt and uncle were so scared that they couldn't care about anything else and ran away. While running, he shouted, Madman! Man, are you really all right? My parents looked at me worriedly and were also shocked by the situation just now. Don't worry, I'm fine. I told them not to worry. I'm in a great mood right now. In the future, don't do anything with your aunt and others. They will only cheat you of money in the name of relatives. In fact, my parents have been thinking about it for a long time, but they are too kind-hearted. Back to the room, I called Lu Wei and asked him to sort out the evidence of Gao Chong's corruption and bribery as soon as possible and hand it over directly to the police. I wanted to give them a way to live, but they didn't just don't great but went in hand. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? By the way, help me find a few more people and check out my aunt's family. It's on me. If you find anything, I'll send it to you immediately. After hanging up the phone, I went to eat at ease. Lu Wei's efficiency is very high. He sent me a lot of explosive news in just 2 days, which made me excited. None of their families are fuel-saving lamps. It's okay for Gao Chong to embezzle and accept bribes. His wife is still stealing people outside, and he doesn't even know whether the child is his own. My aunt also looks at the leader of the community square dance team every day. TSK, it's really not a family, don't enter the family. When the news spread out, their family was determined to break up. But I don't care. After all, they want to put me in a mental hospital and want me to transfer the house directly to them. The 1-week deadline is coming soon. I came to my house with something, and my aunt's family happened to be there. It's just that they obviously have to return the house in this situation. 8. When their family saw me coming, they all turned black. Gao Chong and his wife were also haggard. At first glance, they quarreled about the house this week. A person like Bai Yu who loves to sit and enjoy herself, let her lose the school district house she has lived in for 3 years, it would be better to kill her. In fact, Gao Chong's salary is not low at all under my introduction, but in front of his wife, no matter how much money he has, it is not enough to spend, which forced him to make extra money. Man, where are your parents? Why are you alone? They don't want to get in your affairs, so it's gone. Pack up and move away quickly. I didn't give any face at all, and quickly issued the expelling order. As soon as I said this, they began to complain and begged me to lenient them for a while. Man, look, Xiaobao is still so young. How can he adapt to this sudden move? Yes, the children are used to living here, so you can be more flexible. I only think it's ridiculous when I hear it. I don't like this naughty child who messes around and spoils my things. It's none of my business. Is it possible that she wants to live in Notre Dame, and the French have to let her in? They all changed their faces when they heard my merciless words. Bai Yu even punched and kicked Gao Chong, saying that if she couldn't do it today, she would divorce him. It's okay for adults to make a fuss. Even the children beat her father with her, saying divorce, divorce. Gao Chong's face is ugly. He has no ability in the first place. It's useless to hit me a while ago, and now he can't think of a solution. Man, for the sake of our family, let's have a few more days of grace. The little ant lay directly on the ground and rolled up, pretending to be pitiful and said, You are going to kill us. You are willing to let me die, don't you? We are also relatives at least. We often take care of your parents when you are abroad. I almost laughed out loud when I heard it. So funny. Obviously I asked them to come back to my house, but in the end I was wrong? Besides, the take care in her mouth is completely a joke. Except for when I was short of money, I would come to my parents to borrow money. At other times, how did they take care of our family? I haven't paid back a penny from beginning to end. Are you talking about this now? Xiufan, what's wrong with you? Why are you still lying on the ground? Just then there was a noise in the corridor. I took a closer look and saw a bunch of uncles and aunts. These people were all known by my aunt who danced in the square. In order to stop me from driving people, my aunt specially called them all to help. This girl is so stupid. It's really hard for me to kick us out. My aunt cried and complained, which immediately incited a group of people to point at me. I've never seen such a shameless one, and I've never been raised by my mother. I got angry when I heard it. Alright, you want to make trouble, right? Then I'll have a good time with you. Everyone be quiet. I have something to say. I cleared my throat. Their family has occupied my house for 3 years. I lent it to them because I thought they were pitiful, but who would have thought that they would shamelessly want to occupy my house? Hearing this, everyone showed a surprised expression, obviously knowing nothing about it. In their impression, the aunt should be very rich. The little aunt didn't bother to pretend to be pitiful at this time. She scolded viciously. Fut your mother's fart. It's obviously you who begged us to help you look at the house, and you said you would give it to us in the future. I almost laughed out loud. Is this psychopath speaking human language? If it weren't for the business to do, I would have to slit her mouth. 9. We have called the police about this matter a long time ago, and the police will come to deal with it in a moment. She just called you as a gunman and delaying time, by the way. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't react for a moment. Suddenly, a middle-aged man stood up. Ben Sense. We have known Xiufan for more than a day or two. We know who she is. If you make trouble again, don't blame us for being polite. When he did it, everyone stood up to help, and everyone said they wanted to trouble me. I stared at the man with a sneer at the corners of my mouth. Are you Lao Yang? Not bad. What's the matter? I'm not afraid of your little girl. The man looked righteous and dignified. I didn't bother to talk nonsense with him, so I just took out a stack of photos and threw them on his face. You are my aunt's sister-in-law. I can understand why you speak for her. What are other people trying to do in this muddy water? As soon as he said this, the little uncle was anxious and quickly picked up the photos on the ground. Above is the picture of Lao Yang and his aunt going to the hotel to open a room, which was taken by Lu Wei helping to find someone. The little uncle was so angry that his face turned green. He grabbed Lao Yang and beat him up. He beat him so hard that his nose was blue and his face was swollen. The aunt was so scared that she didn't dare to say a word there. That I guess I didn't expect that I would lose this face when I was over 50. Li Man, what on earth are you going to do? Gao Chong was so angry that he couldn't wait to rush up and beat me. Isn't it just for a shabby house? As for the fuss about this, have you still treated us as your relatives? I almost laughed out loud when I heard this. Oh, now you know how to talk about family affection? He robbed my house, bullied my parents, and wanted to send me to a mental hospital. Why didn't you think that I was your relative at that time? As I said, I walked to Bai Yu and rubbed her daughter's head with a smile. This child doesn't look like his cousin at all. Do you think it's strange? As soon as I said this, Bai Yu's face suddenly changed and she hurriedly pushed my hand away. What do you mean? Gao Chong asked me with a gloomy face, obviously wanting to do it, but when he thought that I was a psychopath, he might suffer a loss, so he held back. That I ignored him and took out a pile of photos from my bag. It's all evidence that Bai Yu and another man went to the hotel to open a room. I took one for my cousin, and the rest were all circulated to my uncle and aunt. It's all coming. If there are melons, we must eat them together. You spit blood in your mouth. I don't have at all. Bai Yu was so anxious that she quickly got rid of the relationship. No? Then why do I have photos of you having an affair with someone? Would you like to have a look? The child is not his own child. TSK, you are really miserable. You work hard to earn money and can't support your family. It's okay to secretly make money or raise your wife and children for others. Gao Chong couldn't help it any longer and slapped his wife down. Bitch. I work hard to earn money, and you dare to steal people outside. Gao Chong scolded and beat, and Bai Yu cried on the ground. The child was still applauding and shouting. Dad is cheating. Mom was beaten. The uncles and aunts on the onlookers were stunned. I never thought that my aunt's family would live such a wonderful life. I'm too lazy to take care of their family's business. They are to blame for everything. I looked at the time and guessed that the police were about to come. As a result, not long after, a police car drove into the community, and several policemen came straight to Gao Chong. 10. Who is Gao Chong? What are you doing? This is my family's business. Gao Chong looked ugly and thought that the police came because of his domestic violence. Give me a handcuff. Several policemen handcuffed Gao Chong without saying a word. Gao Chong, you are suspected of taking advantage of your position to embezzle and accept bribes. Please come with us. Hearing this, Gao Chong was confused and looked at me indisbelievably. Needless to say, he must have guessed that I did it. Man, I beg you, just let me go this time. From now on, the house will be yours, and I will never bother you again. Unfortunately, it's too late. The police don't care about these and won't let go of the one who should be arrested. Only then did my aunt and uncle react and rushed over to beg me to open the net. It's a pity that I'm not as talkative as my parents. On that day, all the things of my aunt's family were cleared by the moving workers, and the community property manager blacklisted them and banned them from entering for life. It took me a long time to restore the school district house, which was almost ruined into a pig's nest. According to my parents, my aunt's family lived a miserable life. Although my aunt and uncle's husband are not divorced, they quarreled all day long. Later, I heard that Uncle Square Dance had AIDS and infected my aunt, and my aunt passed it on to my uncle's husband. Gao Chong went to prison. I don't know how long he will be in prison, but he divorced. My aunt's family has completely dispersed. I don't regret this at all. If I hadn't taken action quickly, I might have been sent to a mental hospital by them. Full text finished.